Are you happy? Are you happy? If you was a part of the we must give Kelsey Mitchell $1.4 million, I want to know how you feeling right now. Are you happy? This Dallas Wings game, I feel, yes, it's just a preseason game. It's just a preseason basketball game. But I think there's a bigger issue at hand with the state of the roster. Regardless of the Lexi Hole and Aaliyah Boston situation, I think there's some real issues on the roster we got to get into. Welcome to...
The silence didn't just break, it shattered. As Caitlin Clark limped through the closing moments of a brutal preseason matchup, the reality of the Indiana Fever situation finally came crashing down. This wasn't just a physical scare for the face of the league, it was the moment the internal tension between the stars finally boiled over. Kelsey Mitchell has been watching from the sidelines of a crumbling system, and her reaction to the chaos surrounding Clark's health and the team's direction says everything. The era of the Splash Sisters was supposed to be a dynasty, but right now it looks like a disaster waiting to happen. The words being whispered in the locker room are far more damaging than any on-court injury could ever be.
Roster construction issues with the Indiana Fever right now. The fact of the matter is, we knew Caitlin Clark and Kelsey Mitchell as the Splash Sisters, but the fact of the matter is, we haven't seen them both playing well at the same time since Christy Sides was the coach. We haven't seen them both clicking on the floor together since the post-Olympic break during Caitlin Clark's rookie year. Even in games last year, when Caitlin Clark went off versus the New York Liberty, Kelsey Mitchell wasn't playing well. When Kelsey Mitchell had that big game in Seattle, Caitlin Clark wasn't playing well. But
Everyone saw the moment it happened against the Dallas Wings. Caitlin Clark went down hard, clutching her ankle, after a sequence that looked more like a battlefield than a basketball game. While fans held their breath, the real story was brewing on the bench. Kelsey Mitchell, the woman the Fever just handed a massive $1.4 million contract, didn't look like a teammate ready to charge into battle. She looked like someone realizing the dream is turning into a nightmare. For the first time, we are seeing the cracks in the foundation of this roster, and the silence from Mitchell regarding the on-court chemistry with Clark has been deafening, until this very moment.
I think there's a real issue going on with Kelsey Mitchell. I think there's parts in the game yesterday where Kelsey Mitchell was playing like everybody was hurt and this was last season. That's what I saw a lot of. It was a lot of Kelsey Mitchell, I'm going to dribble the ball 17 and 18 times to score. That's not it. That's not it. And I think that some of us may be overstating the chemistry on the floor between them. Even when Caitlin Clark hit Kelsey Mitchell on those back doors, Kelsey Mitchell was going late. Caitlin Clark was kind of waiting on her to go. It's not clicking like it was.
The truth is that the chemistry between Caitlin Clark and Kelsey Mitchell has completely evaporated. We haven't seen these two clicking on the floor together since Christy Sides was the coach, and that is a terrifying thought for Fever fans. Even when Clark was lights out against the New York Liberty last year, Mitchell was struggling. When Mitchell had her monster game in Seattle, Clark was the one faltering. They are like two magnets with the same polarity, constantly pushing each other away instead of pulling the team together. It's a roster construction nightmare that is costing the franchise millions, while their superstar takes hits that could end her season.
That's not it. That's not it. And I think that some of us may be overstating the chemistry on the floor between them. Even when Caitlin Clark hit Kelsey Mitchell on those back doors, Kelsey Mitchell was going late. Caitlin Clark was kind of waiting on her to go. It's not clicking like it was clicking post-Olympic break. I think this is a real issue, okay? And I'm not jumping on this, and I'm sure they're going to have some good games together. I'm sure Kelsey Mitchell's going to have some huge performances. She's a big-time player and a big-time scorer, but I said this before.
Kelsey Mitchell is playing like she's still stuck in the injury crisis of last season. Back then, she had to dribble the ball 17 or 18 times just to get a decent look, because the roster was filled with random players and temporary contracts. But Caitlin Clark is back now. You don't need to over-dribble, and you don't need to play hero ball when you have the greatest passing prospect in history standing right next to you. Yet, Mitchell is still playing as if she's out there with Odyssey Sims and an injured Aerial Powers. It's a selfish style of play that is suffocating the offense and leaving Clark vulnerable to the physical defense of opposing teams.
You to say this, I think the 1.4 could have been spent elsewhere with a better collection of players to surround Caitlin Clark and Aaliyah Boston with. That's my opinion before the deal was done. That's my opinion still today. Okay. And another reason why this whole, you got to look at the 1.4, man. She didn't play like $1.4 million. I got to keep it real. But when she takes that, you got to realize you're going to have players like Dantis around. It's going to be a bunch of
The financial side of this is even more staggering. The Fever committed $1.4 million to Kelsey Mitchell, and many are asking if that money was flushed down the drain. If you spend that kind of cash on one veteran, you end up with a bench full of cheap, ineffective options. We saw it clearly in the Dallas game. Players like Damiris Dantas are showing that they are completely cooked. It's over for the veterans who can't keep up with the pace of the modern game. Had that $1.4 million been spent on a collection of high-level role players to surround Clark and Aaliyah Boston, we wouldn't be worried about a thin rotation or a lack of defensive help.
Guys, it's over. That lady is done. I mean, not to beat a dead horse, but it is done. And had we spent the 1.4 elsewhere, we wouldn't have to be worrying about Dantas coming off the bench. There's a lot of things within this roster we wouldn't be having to worry about. But hey, it is what it is. If you wanted her, this is what comes with it. As of right now, I'm not seeing the chemistry flow between Caitlin Clark and Kelsey Mitchell. I feel like Kelsey Mitchell is still playing as if she's out there with Ari McDonald and Odyssey Sims and a bunch of injured Aerial.
Stephanie White was brought in to be the defensive savior of this team, but the early returns are disastrous. How can you be a defensive-minded coach and watch your team play that soft? Caitlin Clark herself admitted after the game that the team was undisciplined and lacked connection. When your star player is calling out the group for being soft, you know there is a leadership vacuum. White is over here tinkering with an offense that she's clearly making worse, all while the defense she's supposed to be an expert in falls apart. It's a recipe for a losing season, and Kelsey Mitchell's frustration with the system is starting to leak out.
As if she's out there with Ari McDonald and Odyssey Sims and a bunch of injured Aerial Powers, random people coming on the team because of the injury crisis. And the fact of the matter is Caitlin Clark is back. You don't need to dribble 19 times to get a shot. You don't need to do all of that, Kelsey. And that's just, it's not going to work like that. And until I actually see their on-court chemistry flow again, I have no reason. Like, we are holding on to post-Olympic break, and they are not playing in the post-Olympic break system that we saw their chemistry and connection in. That's actually...
The officiating in the preseason has been tighter, which Clark actually praised, but it highlights a bigger issue. Even with more fouls being called, Clark is still getting hammered because her teammates aren't providing the spacing or the secondary threat needed to keep defenses honest. Kelsey Mitchell was supposed to be that threat. Instead, she's taking backdoor cuts late, making Clark wait on her, and ruining the timing of the entire transition game. The post-Olympic break chemistry we all fell in love with is a distant memory. We are holding on to a system that doesn't even exist anymore, and the new one is failing every single test.
Having a good game, Caitlin stinking it up. Caitlin having a good game, Kelsey stinking it up. That's just what I remember. And I think a lot of it is largely due to Stephanie White is all horrible as an offensive coach. The system is piss poor, and it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. But let's take a listen to what Caitlin Clark had to say about the game.
Caitlin, first of all, how are you feeling after that foul that took you out?
I feel good. Obviously, I thought the refs did a really good job tonight on it, actually, and that's kind of been their focus going into this season is, I know there was a committee of people that...
I said this on the live. I definitely...
Caitlin Clark's ankle injury might have been the catalyst for this sudden realization, but the problems go much deeper than a single joint. She's out there trying to build a culture of winning, while the veterans seem content to play the same old style of basketball that kept this team in the lottery for years. Clark mentioned that the team needs to be more connected as a group of five, but that connection is impossible when your shooting guard wants to play isolation ball. Every time Mitchell pounds the rock into the hardwood for 20 seconds, she is effectively icing out the most dangerous offensive weapon in the WNBA. The roster construction issues are glaringly obvious when you look at who is coming off the bench, because so much money is tied up in Mitchell. The Fever are forced to rely on players who simply shouldn't be getting meaningful minutes in a championship-caliber rotation. When you see the lack of depth, you realize why the starters are under so much pressure. They have to play hero ball because there is no safety net. This puts Clark in a position where she has to overextend herself, leading to the kind of physical fatigue and injury scares that we saw against Dallas. It's a house of cards that is one bad landing away from falling. Kelsey Mitchell's silence has finally been broken by her performance, and it's not saying what fans want to hear. She's a big-time player and a big-time scorer. Nobody denies that, but is she the right player for this team? The evidence is pointing toward a resounding no. You cannot have two players who need the ball that much and expect them to thrive without a coach who can actually design a functional system. Stephanie White's offense is being described as piss-poor and ridiculous by those close to the situation. If the coach can't get the two best players on the same page, the season is over before the first tip-off. Caitlin Clark is trying to stay positive, talking about how the product on the floor will improve with better officiating and more time together, but you can see the exhaustion in her eyes. She knows that being soft defensively is a choice, not a lack of talent. It's a choice to not rotate, a choice to not help your teammate, and a choice to let the other team dictate the physical terms of the game. While Clark is out there taking the hits and dealing with the ankle issues, the rest of the roster needs to decide if they are going to step up or just cash their checks while the franchise player takes all the heat. The comparison to the Christie Sides era is inevitable because that was the last time we saw Mitchell and Clark actually look like they enjoyed playing together. Since Stephanie White took over, that joy has been replaced by a mechanical, clunky style of play. Mitchell looks lost in the half-court sets, often defaulting to her old habits of forcing shots over double teams. It's frustrating for Clark, who thrives on ball movement and quick decision-making. The two of them are playing two different sports on the same court, and the results are exactly what you'd expect, a choppy, inefficient mess that leaves everyone frustrated. When we talk about the $1.4 million, we have to talk about the opportunity cost. That money could have brought in a defensive anchor or a high IQ wing who knows how to play off the ball. Instead, the Fever doubled down on a player whose style of play might actually be detrimental to their long-term goal of building around Clark. Mitchell is a great individual talent, but basketball is a team game. If your second highest paid player makes your best player's job harder, you have a fundamental failure in management. The silence from the front office regarding this lack of fit is just as loud as Mitchell's. Clark's comments about the connectedness of the group were a direct shot at the lack of cohesion we saw against the Wings. She's trying to lead a group that includes new faces like Mo and Mai, players she hasn't had time to build a rhythm with yet. But the problem isn't the new players. It's the lack of evolution from the established ones. Kelsey Mitchell needs to realize that her role has to change if this team is going to succeed. She can't be the primary option anymore, but her ego and her contract seem to be standing in the way of that realization. Until that changes, the Fever are stuck in neutral. The physical toll on Caitlin Clark is becoming a major talking point. She's getting hit hard, and the refs are finally starting to blow the whistle, but that doesn't take away the pain or the risk of a long-term injury. If the Fever don't fix their offense, Clark will continue to be a sitting duck for aggressive defenders. When the offense is stagnant, it allows the defense to load up on her, leading to more physical play and more opportunities for her to get hurt. Kelsey Mitchell's inability to draw attention away from Clark is directly contributing to the physical punishment the rookie is enduring. There's a growing sentiment that the Fever are wasting the most important years of their rebuild. You have a generational talent in Clark and a dominant force in Boston, but the supporting cast is a jumbled mess of overpaid veterans and unproven youngsters. The chemistry issues aren't just a preseason fluke. They are a symptom of a deeper rot in the roster construction. If the team doesn't find a way to make Mitchell and Clark work together, they might have to make a difficult decision sooner rather than later. You can't keep a $1.4 million player who doesn't fit the system. Stephanie White's reputation as a defensive mastermind is on the line. She was brought in to fix the very issues that Clark highlighted after the game, yet the team looks as lost as ever. If you're a defensive coach and your team is soft, what exactly are you bringing to the table? Tinkering with the offense and making it worse while neglecting the defense is a fireable offense in this league. The pressure is mounting, and the players are starting to feel it. The silence from Mitchell regarding the coaching changes is telling. It suggests a lack of buy-in that could derail the entire project. Caitlin Clark's ankle hit was a wake-up call for everyone involved. It showed just how fragile this whole experiment is. If Clark goes down, the entire Fever organization loses its identity and its revenue stream. That's why the lack of chemistry with Mitchell is so dangerous. A functional offense protects its stars by sharing the load. An isolation-heavy offense exposes its stars by forcing them to do everything. Mitchell's refusal to adapt her game is putting the entire franchise at risk, and it's time for the coaching staff to hold her accountable for her role in this offensive stagnation. The fact that we haven't seen Clark and Mitchell have a good game at the same time in over a year is a staggering statistic. It's not just a small sample size, it's a pattern. One player eats while the other starves. There is no synergy, no splash, and no rhythm. We are holding on to the memory of a few good weeks after the Olympics, but that was a flash in the pan. The reality is that these two players might simply be incompatible in a professional setting. If that's the case, the Fever have a massive problem on their hands that $1 million contract only makes harder to solve. The officiating might be improving the product for the fans, but it's not solving the internal issues for the Fever. A cleaner game only highlights the flaws in a team's execution. When the whistles are tight, you can't hide behind physicality. You have to rely on your sets and your movement. The Fever's movement is non-existent when the ball hits Mitchell's hands. It's like a black hole where ball movement goes to die. Clark's frustration is palpable because she knows how good this team could be if they just played the right way. She's fighting the system and her own teammates just to get a shot off. Kelsey Mitchell is a big-time scorer, but the game has changed. The WNBA is more talented and more tactical than ever before. You can't just dribble your way to a championship anymore. You need elite spacing, quick triggers, and defensive intensity. Right now, Mitchell is providing none of those at a high enough level to justify her price tag. Her breaking silence through her play is showing a player who is unwilling or unable to evolve for the sake of the team. If she doesn't change, the Fever will continue to be a bottom-tier team despite having the most talented player in a generation. The injury to Clark's ankle was a warning shot, but the real damage is being done to the team's culture. When you have a star player calling out the group for being soft and undisciplined, the honeymoon phase is officially over. The Fever need to decide what kind of team they want to be. Are they going to be the Caitlin Clark show, or are they going to be a collection of individuals playing for their own stats? Kelsey Mitchell's role in that decision is pivotal. She can either become the veteran leader this team needs, or she can continue to be the $1.4 million obstacle in the way of greatness. As we look toward the rest of the season, the questions far outweigh the answers. Will the chemistry magically reappear, or was it never really there to begin with? Can Stephanie White fix a defense that looks completely broken? And most importantly, can Caitlin Clark stay healthy while her teammates figure out how to play with her? The silence has been broken, and the truth is out there for everyone to see. The Indiana Fever are at a crossroads, and if they don't choose the right path soon, the injury to Clark's ankle will be the least of their worries in a season that is quickly slipping away.